right, so we ended up making it. Got back late last night, 11, 12 o'clock. Back to St. Louis from Kansas City and beat the snowstorm. Last night it started in Kansas City about 12 and just got here at like 8 o'clock this morning. So drove down to Hillsboro, picked up my wheels and tires for the two-wheel drive 12-valve Cummins, because I'm going to need a truck to drive. I left my truck, the 06 Cummins, in Kansas City to get wheels, tires, Fox shocks, and a spray and bed liner. So KC Custom's going to take care of all of that for me. They're going to even do some PDR on the truck and get it all ding free. So we are home, safe, and I had to test the truck out in the snowstorm. So we are driving right now. I picked up the dogs, and this thing is driving like a freaking champ. So I'm absolutely loving it. My wife is thrilled, loves the look of it, but most of all, the performance. The Fox shocks with the reservoirs are taking all the little bumps that we used to feel on the stock suspension, and you still feel the bumps, but it's just minimal. But what's even more impressive is these wheels and tire setup that we have on here with the Nittos and the Method 20s, and how it's handling in the, you know, quarter inch of snow, where the roads just get a little bit slick, where the stock wheels and tires might start slipping just a hair here and there. No slip at all. And so these things are driving great. It's tracking great with the third track bar, the level. Man, we are just so thrilled with this thing. And kind of the idea behind the overall build setup was, you know, how do we get a truck that can work, that is comfortable to drive, but looks really, really cool. And so with the setup, we went with that 2-inch Thurin coilover level, Thurin track bar, Fox reservoirs with the shocks, and then the 20x10 Method wheels. I think they're a -24 offset. And then the 35-inch by 1250 wheels. It gives it a really nice stance. As far as the tire poke, it doesn't stick out far enough to where it's, you know, flinging rocks and mud and, you know, crap everywhere. And it will just a hair. It'll get a little bit more dirty than being fully tucked underneath. But the Limited on these 26 models has those fender flares to help protect. But it does set to where it's just a nice aggressive stance, but not overly aggressive to where you can't park and you're worried about, you know, crossing the center lines and things like that while you're driving. And just overall really, really, really good setup here, and we're super happy with it. The couple other things that we did is we went ahead and put the Airlift 5000 airbags on the rear. Have run those forever on many trucks. Great setup. KC Customs did hook us up with a different compressor, so we're not running the Airlift compressor that comes with the kit. We're running a Log IQ compressor setup, and so we like this remote with the lock button on the back, which is really nice. And so we really like this compressor setup. We feel it's a really good compressor. Not that the Airlift is bad, but they keep these in stock over at KC Customs, so I'm glad we went with those. One other thing that we did with the compressor setup is I've always had a fear with is the compressor lines. If they leak or if you do have some kind of issue, it will rev and try to fill those up constantly if you run it hot. So what we did is we ran it to our auxiliary switch 3 So on auxiliary switch 3, that has to be turned on for the compressor to even run at all. And we felt like that was a great setup. So if we are parking overnight and we're hooked up to a trailer, and let's say we have a slow leak and we've got 50 pounds of air or 30 pounds of air in the airbags, if we do have a leak, it's not going to continue to rev it up and end up killing our batteries overnight. So that's one thing that we did that is just a little thing that not a lot of people think of, but running it to a switch, and then whenever you need the airbags, just turn your switch on and your compressor will come on and off whenever you want it, especially with that Log IQ remote. The other really cool feature that we did on this build, which I've done on a truck in the past, really wanted my wife to have this because a lot of times she'll drive the back roads at night. We live in an area where it's just a 2-lane highway. There's a ton of deer. So on auxiliary 4 switch, we mounted up the 2 rough country pod lights that shine bright white, and they put out some light, and they're angled just offset because we don't need them straight. The headlights on these new trucks are unreal. Everyone thinks you already have your highs on anyway, so we always get flashed at night regardless, but super good LED headlights come stock on these trucks. So with these pod lights, they're angled to the side, and you can see for a solid 200, 300, 400 yards depending on what you're looking at, and you can see if there's deer out there, or if you can see the eyes, and so you can apply your brakes or slow down prior to a deer jumping out in front, because you can see, if you're driving on those back roads, what's happening on the sides of the roads. And I recommend it for anyone that's driving back roads at night. It's an awesome thing to have, and we got that on the on-off auxiliary 4 switch, so it's just the tap of a button, turn them on and off, which is really nice. And those rough country pod lights are mounted on a Morimoto bracket. We found that Morimoto bracket is just an awesome bracket. Probably could have spent the money and upgraded to the Morimoto lights. Man, they're just super expensive. And these rough country ones, we've found that they've done really well, have not had any issues with them. I could buy them 3 times over for what we're using them for. It's not like we're racing the dunes, you know, in the pitch black and going across the country with them, so we don't need to see forever. But these rough countries get the job done. We have never had an issue out of them. They're fully weatherproof, weather rated, and like I said, we can buy them 3 times over if we ever do have issues. They're plug and play. But those Morimoto brackets are a super low profile mount that sit on the hood. They mount up right to the hood bracket itself, and it's a real low profile. So when my wife's driving this truck, or even if I'm driving the truck, if you're sitting down lower, they're not blocking any vision, so they're tucked nice and tight. We're not drilling into our A-pillars, so it gives it a nice stock look, low profile, which is really nice as well. So one of the last features that we did on this build, other than the suspension and the airbags, is the ranch hand front bumper. And so it was something I definitely surprised her with. She was so worried about the sensors not working because she's real small, and I'll play a clip. I ran into a pole right when we dropped this thing off because the truck is so big you can't see out front. But
stop! You hit something. You hit a pole.
pole?
Yes.
Where's the pole? With her being a lot smaller, that ranch hand front bumper, we were afraid that the sensors weren't going to work properly, but I really want her to be protected with that ranch hand front bumper. I've had them on a 5th gen like this before, and they are bad to the bone. They look great. And the cool thing about this Legend front bumper is it still has the cutout for all of the cameras. And so when you're driving down the road or you need to park, you can still turn on your camera and you can see right in front of you, which is really nice, but the sensors work perfectly fine with it. And so oftentimes they can be a little glitchy on some of these bumper setups and brush guard setups that you put on these new trucks, but we haven't found that there's been any issues with it. So we're super thrilled with it. You know, just absolutely love the look of it, but most of all, the protection for, you know, my wife driving the truck and having the kiddo. If she needs to, you know, bump into something on accident, or if a deer jumps out, she's not going to destroy the radiator and be broke down on the side of the highway. If something hits that ranch hand front bumper like an animal or a deer, it's just going to kill the animal or the deer, and she can keep on driving. And so she's not going to be broke down. So, you know, really awesome, especially for instance, today it's 4 degrees outside, there's snow on the roads. You know, you break down on the side of the road and you can't get a tow truck here for 5, 6, 7 hours. You know, I don't want there to be issues with a 3-year-old and my wife driving solo, or even with me. You know, it just can get pretty dangerous. So that ranch hand is so nice. And then also, if, you know, God forbid there ever was a wreck, you know, knock on wood, that ranch hand bumper is great protection for my family. And so we love running those ranch hands for that protection aspect, not just vehicle protection, but health and safety aspect as well. There's a lot of awesome testimonials that you'll see from ranch hand of, you know, helping with, you know, a turnover and keeping the car together, because it just keeps that frame nice and solid. They're built rock solid and they look pretty badass. So something we're definitely proud of, super excited to have on the truck, and it's a great look. And the nice thing is it's not intrusive in any way when you're driving. You can still see over just fine, because these new hoods on the Ram 26, you know, these, I don't know if you call them a 6th gen, but the 5th gen, you know, new hood styles, they sit a little bit taller anyway. So as I'm looking over, you can't even see the ranch hand bumper, which is kind of nice. But that about wraps it up. You know, wheels, tires, suspension, shocks, coilovers, ranch hand front bumper, the ditch light, pod lights, the airbags in the back. Just an all-around badass setup. It's a great driver. It's not a huge 4-inch lift. You know, we've had big lifted trucks, and trying to hook up the gooseneck, I mean, I've slammed a tailgate on a gooseneck with my gooseneck trailer. So you know, we wanted something that looked good, looked aggressive, but most of all, performed. We're not taking this truck off-road. We're not going crazy with it, but it's capable if it needs it. Having the coilovers in the rear and in the front, it's capable to go across a median or a ditch, or, you know, if we do run off the road, we can get back on the road, not having the leaf springs. But also pairing it with those airbags, it's going to tow really nice as well. And so when we went to Kansas City, we towed that gooseneck with a 4-wheeler and my 06 long bed 2500 on the gooseneck, and this thing towed like an absolute dream. The performance of this new 26 Ram with the 2500, we didn't even have the airbags on it, and when we put that gooseneck, it sagged, but it almost was level. And so it towed phenomenal. The new 8-speed transmission, couldn't even feel the trailer back there. You know, it just towed really well. So having that all-around great setup without the 3500 rear end and only having the 2500 rear end, it's just the perfect workhorse that we can still use, still tow with, go off-road if we have to, daily drive. It's a perfect truck for my wife, and we are just absolutely thrilled with the way that this thing turned out. So We're driving in the snow right now. It's dumping on us. We probably, I don't know, have ½ inch of snow now, and it's supposed to get anywhere between 8 and 10 inches. So I'd love to get it out and do some donuts later if my wife will let me, and she might want to drive it too, who knows. But we'll try to get it out a little later, but if not, hey, appreciate you guys watching, and we're super excited and thrilled to share this build with you and show you that, hey, maybe it's not a 5-inch lift with 38s or 40s or whatever, but just a good all-around solid work build, solid truck build that has an aggressive stance. You can still drive, still tow. Couldn't be more happy with what KC Customs did for us, and how they set this truck up, and just going back and forth with Darren over there at KC Customs. Definitely worth a 4.5-hour drive to have them build the truck, because we trust them. They do great work, and they give us a hell of a deal on the parts and labor as well. So we are super excited, super thrilled. I know you're tired of hearing me talk, so enjoy the build.